Oh, week 5 behind us, week 6 ahead of us, and I finished reading your week 5 Learn Together. And a couple of you, because I didn't make it required that you write some code, more that you think about it, but a couple of you did. And you know what? Good on you, because the truth is you want to write as much code as your time will allow, because it's two things. It's more than that, but it's muscle memory so that you get the idea of how to do something that you've learned, like assuming you've only learned that you didn't come in with knowledge. If you did, of course, this makes this a little easier. But when you hear somebody, and specifically Al, talk about a concept, the sooner or the less time between the time that you learn it, and even if you're coding, even though you're coding along, the time between that and when you actually use it, there's a relationship as far as the longer the time goes, the more you have to remember. And that amount of time that it would take to remember varies, of course. So good on you. I saw a couple of good code examples and I read your descriptions, and some of you are being a little ambitious, and nothing wrong with that. A couple things I want to say today as we move into our first develop part of our first develop it, our dev challenges, is this is 50% of this class because that's how important I feel this concept is. And it's really when you can take a concept that you've come up with and you create code to have that concept be made more real, that you really figure out how well you're translating what you're learning. It's and I've seen this for myself, I've seen this for students, and so this is why I feel this concept is so important. When I started teaching programming here at City, I've programmed before this for myself. I'd done consulting, and then I had done work for the county. So, and I even before that, it seemed like every job I had, a part of it was coding in some way or the other. But what was I going to say about that? It's that process of actually coding something where you actually do the work, that you really make this a more real thing, and you really get that point of excitement. Honestly, can be sometimes frustrating, right? But it's an important step to take to actually say, how well do I know this, right? And so, the thing is, and I read, some of you actually did an externalized document, and I think that's a good idea, to actually give this enough thought, because the more thought you give it, when you go to program, those are your guides, your guide for what you're going to implement. Now, what you implement may turn out to be different. That's just the case as well. And one of the things I say, if you really first challenge yourself, that's always good. Sometimes when you go to do something, and this is my general recommendation, is start a little simpler. Okay, start with whatever your concept, maybe your core part of your program is going to do. Start implementing it where it's at a simple state, and then move forward as far as adding functionality to that, but start with it working in a very simplified version. And the reason is it really gives you that payoff of seeing something work. You know that the foundation of code that you're writing is good. You're really only debugging what it is that you're writing. So these are just techniques, right? So those are my suggestions as we move into this week. I see that as of today, which is Friday, and I released and I sent everyone in my JavaScript in this Python class an email yesterday. I already have 3 people signed up for code reviews, which is awesome, and/or sessions. I talked about that in that video. So that's great. I've already done 2 code reviews as of today, which is awesome. So I look forward to next week. It's one of my most fun weeks of actually getting to connect with students, seeing their code, and seeing how well what we're doing is translating. Because that's always a big question, right? Always a something we do. It's like how well is both the Udemy course and um, the the work with the Learn Togethers helping you translate this. And it seems like most of you felt like maybe the calisthenics weren't so much calisthenics, which is fine too, right? I think I only had one, and I actually realized this morning I'd forgotten. I did do it. I forgot to post my example, so not good on me, but sorry about that. Here's what I want to say in kind of wrapping this up is like the other thing is remember, if you use somebody else's code, you definitely got to reference it. Even if you just use their code for inspiration, meaning you read it and you modified it, you still need to reference them. Okay. Because that's an important part of coding. It's like think about it like if you're writing an English paper or a paper for an English class, right? It's there's some similarities in coding because in writing you have to understand the different parts of speech, how to construct a sentence, how to build that into an essay by having a complete thought that you're representing through your writing, whether it's argumentative, right? But it's a research paper, the same concept. So this is not that well, it is and it isn't. Of course, it's different in the way you implement it, but it's not different in the way that your mastery of the language is the important part. And reading and getting inspired by other people's code, it's not a bad thing as long as you reference them, just like you would on English paper where you do a footnote, endnote, however you're doing your MLA, right? Concept. As long as you're giving credit to the person where you got it. That's all. So do that. Make sure you're there. Other than that, I do one thing. And by the way, again, Efron asked really good questions. He felt like Al didn't cover the pass by reference, which actually is in the week 6 section here that we're going to do. Coming in here, we're finishing up 6. And you know what? I see that. If you haven't gotten a background in pass by reference, that's true. So I'm going to just do a really simple example, but let's see. Okay. So I want you to, like we've done before here, like pause the video, right? Pause the video and then come back and tell, in your reply, you can do this or you can reply to any of it. Like, when we're setting up a list in this example and we're passing it into a function that has local scope, you would think this list is only available here in local scope, but because we're passing by reference, okay, we're not, if this was string, of course, that would be different. And that's the point of understanding that when you're passing a list, you're actually there's just a memory location where this list is living, and all you're passing here is a reference to that list. So what's going to print out right here when you do my list? Do you know the answer? Right? So I was actually thinking that for week 7, when we come back from dev, we might do something on pass by reference because it is an important concept, and it can be a got you in your code that you're doing something and you thought maybe you were working on a different version or a copied version that you're taking that list and copying it into a variable, but it's not, because it's just copying the reference location. That has bit me in the butt more than once. So I like that that's being talked about, but I would agree it's not covered enough. So make sure that, when you're looking at your code, if you're trying to troubleshoot it, you check that out. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say except sending really positive energy, prayers, whatever is your thing. I know for me, it's that I really hold the highest possible outcome for people affected by these horrific fires. And of course, it's affecting us in the valley here with our air. And some of you, right? And I should have said this all morning to my classes as I do these videos. Like, if you were being affected by these fires, please reach out to me, right? Because, I mean, we want to be as understanding as we can be. And there are resources to help. I don't know of all of them, but I know people on this campus do. So, and I know I'm trying to help out some, at least one set of friends who was evacuated. So let's all try to do our best, right? As best we can. And today is 9/11 anniversary. Hard to believe how much our world has changed since that time. So anybody working on the front lines, send them positive energy. Are essential workers for sure. I hope you have a great weekend. Fresno is, we're not hot anymore. I wonder how much of that is just the smoke, but I know that actually the temperature has come down, which should help the fire situation, but I don't know. So anyway, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you next